guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a recent reads video, and yeah, I'm doing catch up. If you've watched my last two videos that I posted, you know I was gone for pretty much the entire month of February. So I have books that I read at the end of January when I stopped filming through February to the beginning of March. So I'm going to be doing a lot of catch up. I have at least two videos upcoming, this one and another one that will be recent reads that will be catching up to what I am currently reading in March. So all these books I'm going to be talking about today, except for one of them, I had read back in January. So yeah, the one exception is I read the book last week, but it is included in a series, the same series that I'm talking about the first one in, so I just thought I'd lump them together. So with that, I also have reviews on Goodreads for all of these books, including content and stuff like that. So if you're interested in any of these books and you want further details on that, or any details I might forget to mention in this video of how I thought about the books, since it was kind of a little while ago that I read them, I will leave the links to the reviews down below in the description. So if you're interested in any of those, you can check them out there. And with that, we're going to start with my lowest rated book from January, which was a 3-star, and that is Shattered Reflection by Madisyn Carlin, I believe is how you say the author's name. This is it's a non-magical Christian fantasy retelling of the Snow Queen. So it is kind of it's an epic fantasy with kind of a fairy tale retelling twist to it, with no magic. And yeah, we follow 5 different characters. It's 4 or 5 different characters in various places throughout this land where there's kind of like this kind of brewing of a war going on. And yeah, there's just different things going on with these corrupt rulers that are ruling the kingdom. Basically, they are forcing the princess to not take over yet, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. I don't fully remember the description of this one. I mean, this was a while ago. I did receive an ARC copy of this book for an honest opinion, so thanks to the author for that. But yeah, this book, I had issues with it. But with the positives, it was well written for the most part. I'll get to that in a bit of what for the most part means. But it has a very similar style to the way the Ilion Chronicles by J.L. Knight is written, or The Blades of Akhtar by Trisha Mingring. So if you like either of those two series, you might want to try this one, especially since I know some of my viewers here don't like magic in their fantasies. This one definitely does not have magic. It's very interesting when people can retell fairy tales without the magical element. I'm very interested whenever people can do that, and I thought this was done very well. It was a very good retelling of the Snow Queen, which is kind of a lesser known fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, but I mean, lesser known is a loose term. It's probably more known now because Frozen is very, very, very loosely based off of it. But besides that, this was a very good non-magical take on it. My main issues are probably more personal, because most reviews I've seen on Goodreads, people really love the book, which is great. I just don't think it was for me. Number one, going back to that writing thing of why I thought well written to a certain point, in the very beginning, I felt we jumped scenes a lot. What do I mean by that? Basically, like, characters would be talking to each other or whatever, and then I would think they were in one place, and then suddenly it would tell me they were somewhere else, and then so it felt like we were jumping to scenes without any like prelude in between of, like, you know, they walked somewhere or whatever. And sometimes that's not necessary in books. Other times, if you don't do that in writing, it feels like characters are leaping, or you think they're in one position and they're actually somewhere else and the author didn't tell you. In the very beginning, this was happening quite a bit. It did quit by like the middle to the end. It stopped doing that. Basically, to fix this problem, the author would just need to go through it and do a little bit more editing in the beginning. It's a minor thing. It's easily fixable, and it doesn't take too much away from the story. I just kept getting pulled out of it a little bit because it kept jumping, and I was getting a little confused with it. The other 2 issues I had with it are purely personal things, I'm sure. And honestly, I don't even know why this bugged me so much, but it did. Number one, there was the whole, why does God allow bad things to happen and a character has doubts in his faith because of it? This can be well done. I think it is done to death in Christian fiction, in all honesty. I think, yeah, we all have those thoughts, obviously, and, you know, there is no answer, aside from sin is in the world, and you just deal with it. But, I don't know, the way, maybe I'm just tired of it, and that's why I didn't like it in this particular book, but it's in there, and it did kind of annoy me. It didn't annoy me as much as the other element which it had, which is two characters. One of the characters did something in the past that kind of like betrayed the other two characters. I'm trying to give an example without spoiling things. But, and then these other two characters that he kind of betrayed, they won't forgive him, which, I mean, understandable in that sense, and it was understandable, but I believe it was taken too far. These characters were like, you know, talking about how they wanted to follow God and stuff, and they were continually not forgiving this other character. And they were even continually, even when he was proving himself that he was trying to amend his ways and he was trying to fix it, they were just stubbornly not caring, and it bugged me to no end. It drove me nuts, actually. In fact, it made me finish this book faster just because I knew if I put it down, I would not want to pick it up again because it was bugging me so much. And I know forgiveness plot lines can be done really, really well. And can be done in a way that makes sense. And it does sort of make sense in the case that they were in, but I just thought it was way too heavy-handed. It was way too much, and the characters were just doing it so much that it annoyed the heck out of me. This is purely personal things. It could just be the way the author wrote it. I did not connect with it. I mean, obviously I did not connect with it. But this may not bother other people, these two things I mentioned. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it was well written. I don't think it was the author's debut, but I think it might have been her second book released, and it's very well done in that regard. So take what you will. My issues with it, like I said, purely probably personal reasons that I didn't like it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad book, just means I didn't connect with it, and I probably won't continue with this author's, this particular series, because this is the first book in a series. I probably won't continue with this particular series, but I do want to try one of her other books, which is something about like redeemed assassins or something like that. That sounds very interesting to me, so I will probably try that one in the future. But this particular series, the first book, admittedly kind of turned me off from wanting to try anymore. So yeah, take that what you will, but that's just my opinion on this, on the whole thing. Okay, so the next one, let me find it. So that was my only 3 stars, so now we're going to go into the 4 stars. And the first one is Tell Me You Love Me. This is an anthology of, sorry about the glare. There it is. It's a really cute cover. This is an anthology of different types of Christian love stories. They range in genres anywhere from fantasy to historical, contemporary, and I think there was one dystopian in there. It's just an anthology of different short stories of the phrase, tell me you love me, and just showing godly love through various different couples in various situations and places. And I really enjoyed the majority of the stories. There was only one that really bugged me. It was a historical one. I just didn't think it was very well written, and it kind of bored me. So otherwise, other than that, there were a bunch of stories. They were all really cute, really sweet, and they just showed different forms of godly love and different ways of characters telling each other that they loved them. I also got this book as an arc for an honest opinion. So thank you to the authors and the editors and such for that. I think it's a really, really good anthology story, and I enjoyed the majority of the stories. Like I said, there was just one that I didn't really care for, but the rest of them I actually really liked or was just good with. So yeah, not much more to say about that. So I'll just jump to the next book, which is kind of a reread for me, but also a new read, and I'll explain that, and that is Shadow's Hand by Noelle Nichols. This is the first book in the Shadows Creed saga, and it is Asian fantasy. I have read this book before. This is the second edition. I read the first edition a couple years ago, I think it was, and I really enjoyed it. And this book, the second edition, is basically the same story. In this, there's two characters we're following, Kilo and Shinrei, I believe, is how you say their names. And Kilo is, and they're both like shadow warriors, which basically they're called shadows, which are warriors who kind of protect their village and kind of go out and protect other people too. And then there's this kind of like this person going around using this kind of like magical element that they know nothing about, and it's threatening their village, it's threatening all of their country, and basically they go on separate journeys to try to stop this person and figure out what is going on with this like magical energy that she's using and stuff, and how can they stop it before war spreads. And I really, really love this. Kilo and Shinrei are really great characters. I love following them. The author writes nature in a way that's just really beautiful. I really like her descriptions of like nature and just how these the shadow warriors and these people live in their country and how they interact with each other and stuff. I just really enjoy it. If you enjoy like anime and manga and stuff, it has a very similar tone to that. So if you like that, you would probably really like this novel. I really enjoyed it. The second edition, I think she's expanded a few things, but I didn't notice too many things that were different from the first time I read it. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I got this copy from the author for an honest opinion, so thank you to Noelle for that, if you watch this video. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed Shadow's Hand, and I am currently reading book 2, Phantom's Lament, so very excited to continue their story. Okay, like I said, I'm a little fuzzy on the details here, so if I'm not getting as detailed with these books, I apologize. I just have kind of fuzziness with some things, and I'm just like, it was good. So, the next two are the last two books in a trilogy that I read the first book 2 years ago, I think it was. So I'm a little late on catching up to that, and that is Something New and Keeping Cassie by Michaela Bush. These are books 2 and 3 in the Mount Sterling series. These are just Christian contemporary stories. The first book is Beautiful Chaos, and it follows these two college students who kind of separated on bad terms back in like high school or in childhood, and they meet again at the same college, much to our main character Joanna's chagrin, because she doesn't like Walter for some reason. I forget the details of why she didn't like him. But anyways, and then they kind of end up during college forming a friendship and eventual romance. Obviously, it is kind of a romance story. So yeah, and then this just continues their story. Yeah, obviously you can kind of probably guess there's like a wedding in here and stuff. I don't really know what to say because they're books 2 and 3, so I don't really want to give too much away. There's a lot in here about like being foster parents in the foster care system and just following God's calling for you, even if it's not what you thought it was initially. I gave both of these books 4 stars. I gave the first one 5 stars. I did like it a little more. I did feel like the second book dragged a tiny bit. I'm not sure why. It could have just been my mood at the time, but yeah, I felt it kind of dragged. It meandered a little bit in this one. But yeah, if I were to rank them of like the 3 of them, which are my favorites, the first one would be my favorite, and the third one, Keeping Cassie, would be my second favorite. I just like the way the author talked about helping these at-risk kids and doing fostering and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that aspect. So yeah, these are just they're a more hard-hitting contemporary series than what I would say the mainstream Christian market is for contemporary, but I highly recommend the series if you really like that type of storytelling. Okay, and the last 4-star ones, I guess I could show you the cover of the first one if I can find it, is the first 2 volumes in a manga series, and it is Haikyu. Haikyu, I believe is how you say it. That's the cover of volume 1 and volume 2. I read volume 2 a week ago. So, this is the most recent one. And I gave volume 1 of Haikyu 4.5 stars, and I gave this one 4 stars. This is basically a series surrounding volleyball. And it's very detailed because, like, in the, they actually play a game in the second one, and the author's literally, the mangaka, sorry, is literally, like, going through, like, how the game is played, like, the players are switching and stuff like that, which confused me a little bit. But I have a feeling if I read 45 volumes of this, I'm going to get the hang of how to play volleyball. So, yeah, it's very interesting. I like the characters. Basically, our main character is Hinata. He is, like, a really short high schooler. This is Hinata right here, the guy with the red hair. And basically, he wants to play volleyball, even though he's kind of short for the game. He's 5'4", so which is a little short. And then, yeah, he just basically enters his high school's volleyball club, I think they call it in Japan. And, yeah, it's just the guys' friendship and their beginning journey of playing volleyball. It's literally the whole series. And yeah, I like the characters so far, even the one guy who was really irritating me in the first one because he was such a jerk. I actually kind of liked him in this one, so here's hoping he actually has a character development. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to continuing the series. Okay, and the last books, stop it. This thing really does drive me nuts. Okay, the last 2 books I have to talk about are 5-star books, and they're all part of the same series. If you watched my last recent reads video, which I'll link down in the description in case you missed it, you may have remembered me talking about a book called Before Beauty by Brittany Fichter. It was the first book in the Becoming Beauty trilogy, plus the first book in the Classical Kingdoms series. I explained more about the differences of those 2 series and the similarities in my previous recent reads video. So if you're curious about why I said it's part of 2 series, I would recommend just watching that one because I really don't want to try to explain it again. So anyways, after I read that one and of course filmed that video, I then continued the series. So I read the second book, Blinding Beauty, which is a retelling of The Princess on the Glass Hill, I think it was called. I've never heard of it before. I read that one, and then part of the trilogy, and the last book of that trilogy I read was Beauty Beheld. This is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. And yeah, and also part of that series, I'll just show this cover too, this is a short story in between books, in between Blinding Beauty and Beauty Beheld, and that is Beauty's Bell. This is just like a little Christmas short story. And I gave all of those 5 stars. I love these characters a lot. I'll just, since they're just continuations of series, I will give brief descriptions of them and then just talk a little bit more about why I like the series so much. So, in Blinding Beauty, which is book 2, basically our 2 main characters, Isa and Ever, they're having a little bit of difficulties with their marriage, and they're invited by a neighboring king to come to like this competition he's holding for his daughter's hand in marriage. So they think, hey, this is a great opportunity. We're kind of get away from the kingdom a bit. We'll, try to fix our relationship, and things don't go well from there, let's say that, because there's something weird about this competition that this king is putting on that he says this holy man wants him to put on, and for his daughter. And then Isa's brother, Lons, I believe is how you say his name, he gets mixed up in the whole thing, and then Isa and Ever are just still not getting along, and things explode and go into chaos from there. What I really enjoyed about this book is that I really liked how the author showed, first of all, most fairy tale retellings end at the wedding. I really liked how she expanded this to continuing on to be kind of like showing Isa and Ever's continuing journey together, because the way book 1 ended, you could tell they would have a lot to work through, and they still do, and I still like how even when they're mad at each other, and even when they wouldn't talk to each other, and they were just, angry for various reasons, and they were hurt and stuff, I liked how the author showed that they still loved each other. this is a very rare thing for me because most of the time in romance authors dramatize it, or even movies or whatever, where if the couple is arguing or something, it's like, okay, we're done. We're totally done. We're going to break up or divorce or whatever the situation is, and we're just totally done because we're arguing. I really like how she showed that even though they were arguing and even though they were mad at each other several times, they still loved each other and they were still wanting to work it out. I really enjoyed that because I just think it's rare in a romantic relationship for that to be pointed out, especially in like, because it's always just dealt with in stories as like a do or die situation, you know, like if you get mad at them, you don't love them anymore, but it's not true. And I really like how she did that in the way that it showed their progressing relationship, but also just the difficulties behind it, especially in the situation they were in when they got married. And I just really liked that. It was hard to read at times because I wanted them to get along and be happy and stuff, obviously. But yeah, it was hard to read. One time I actually had to force myself to sit down and read it through that part where they were really mad at each other, because I was like, okay, if I don't, I'm gonna loiter on this forever. And so I just pushed through it and it got better after that. And the little Christmas short story, which is 2.5, it's Becoming Beauty 2.5, and I really enjoyed this. I loved it so much. I bought the ebook so I could read it, and it's just a cute little Christmas short story. Just it does help to follow the events. Do read that one. Okay, let me organize my thoughts. Do make sure you read Beauty spell after Beauty, Blinding Beauty. Okay, all the beauties are getting mixed up. Okay. Because it does follow the events directly after. I think it's like a few months after, but it does show Ever and Isa's progression after that part, and I really liked it, especially after the emotional turmoil that the second book put me through. I really just liked seeing them being cute together, basically. And I did like the Christmas aspect and how the author took her own spin on Christmas in a fantasy world. These are all also Christian fantasy, by the way. It's very light on the Christian part, but it is there, and it's very, very powerful what is there. So yeah, it is Christian fantasy, fairy tale retellings. And the third book of this series, Beauty Beheld, is, like I said, a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. And basically in this one, it's let's see, I think it's 4 years after, it's 3 or 4 years after the events of the second book, and Ever and Isa are just running the kingdom and doing what they're supposed to do in ruling their kingdom and stuff, but the children in the kingdom are going missing, and then they try to find them, and then Isa stumbles across where the children are being kept, and she finds these two orphans, Henry and Jenny, who she kind of grows an attachment to, and things just go from there. There is like fae involved with this story, which I was not expecting when I started it. I don't think that's a spoiler, but yeah, and there's just all these crazy things going on. The author is amazing at still expanding Ever and Isa's characters, even through 3 books, and, you know, they're settled in their relationship and stuff, but they're still having difficulties with just, like, the kingdom, and now they're having issues with the kingdom doubting them because they couldn't find these kids in time, and then they had this situation with, children wanting an heir and stuff. And I will warn that there is potential trigger warnings for infertility in this book, because at the very beginning Isa can't have a child, so there is potential trigger warning for that if you're sensitive to that type of topic. I thought the author handled it extremely well. She handled it in showing that it was hard what Isa and Ever were going through in that part at the time, but it was also shown with a lot of compassion, but each reader to their own of what you can handle in that situation. I just thought the author handled that topic extremely well. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I really enjoyed a lot of these books. I really loved a bunch more. The Becoming Beauty trilogy, most of all, that was actually, and the Becoming Beauty trilogy was one of the books that I wanted to read this year, that I had set aside as a specific read. If you want to read watch the video on my reading goals. I'll leave that link in the description below as well. That was one of them. Haikyu is also another one on that list. It was one of the 5 manga series I wanted to try this year. So yeah, I am starting to work on my goals in that area, and it's going well so far. So yeah, that is the first video in probably the next 2 or 3 of catch up recent reads. So I hope you enjoyed. Sorry I wasn't detailed about some of the books. Like I said, I was a little rusty on some of them, of like what did I dislike and like about them, or some of them I just really had nothing much to say. So sorry for that. If you wanted more details, you can always, like I said, read my Goodreads reviews in the descriptions, because I might have mentioned things in there I forgot to mention here. And yeah. Yeah, comment down below if you guys have anything to say about these books or what you're reading recently, and you can like and subscribe if you haven't done that already, if you feel like it. If you don't, cool, that's fine by me. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!